Pressekonferenz-Setting, ne?
Ja, schon.
Also wir können die
Sollen
TikTok-Pressekonferenz
sollen wir rasch fusionieren oder sowas? Waves Vienna Day 1. Herzlich willkommen. Hi and welcome to part of the conference. I'm jumping in for Ita, who's unfortunately sick, so I have to switch my roles between a participant of the panel and the moderator because I did that so often in the past. All right, so we're gonna have an hour of conversations between the three of us and hopefully you too. And it's all about ticketing, more specifically secondary ticketing. So we want to jump into the topic that is becoming increasingly important and increasingly difficult in these times. Markus here, who's also working for Ticketmaster, just reminded me that at the very first edition of Waves Vienna in 2011, we spoke about the future of digital ticketing, and we were all right. all of us had the right arguments, but I don't think we had secondary ticketing on the plate back then. And that's like, what did we just say, 12 years ago? So it's not really a new topic. However, especially to a market like Austria, a smaller market like Austria, it's a fairly new phenomenon. But just with more recent cases here on soil in Vienna, you probably know many more cases. But here in Vienna, most recently, with the hype around the big shows of the likes of Taylor Swift, Bruce Springsteen, Harry Styles, Coldplay, all happen to be Ticketmaster shows actually. It became an increasing topic here too. So let's jump right in and let me quickly introduce you to the panel, or maybe you introduce yourself. Welcome to Vienna, Ole from Ticketmaster. Would you say a couple of words about you and who you represent and why?
Well,
the why is difficult.
Probably the why question won't be like we won't get that today. But yeah, Ole, Ticketmaster and the entertainment industry since ever. I don't know where I made that wrong turn, but I did. And now for Ticketmaster in for the Central Europe region for business development and all those topics. And before that, worked a long time for Eventbrite, so had a lot of like connection points to secondary tickets in the past. And of course, yeah, as I just mentioned, like we do see the development of the secondary market over the last. The market has ever been there, but like in this extent over the last 10 years. So yeah, and I've no idea why they sent me. That's like, but they did.
Just to give you a reason to be in Vienna, I think that's nice. And hello, and welcome.
Which is fair enough, right?
I tried like this. No.
You can do the Freddie Mercury.
Hello.
You know, like this.
Yeah, maybe later. Let's get warm first. I'm Christoph. I'm based in Berlin. Been working for TicketSwap for the last 2.5 years. We're building the DACH market, or GSE. And yeah, been working for like ticketing companies for the last 5 years. Before that, I was at Ticketmaster as well.
Hi.
And yeah, we see that topic also like more and more coming. The company's originally from Amsterdam, but they are building now other European markets as well, as the topic gets more attention.
So just to be clear, your company actually builds on that as a model. So TicketSwap is here for the secondary market pretty much exclusively.
It's really focusing on the secondary market indeed. Yeah, no primary.
So primary ticketing, secondary ticketing. So I also happen to co-own a ticketing company called Entry. That's why I was initially invited. Entry is an independent ticketing company here in Vienna, very much based on the do-it-yourself idea, working with mostly small and independent promoters. We do anything from sports events to very specific individualized marketing events to cinema ticketing to traditional club ticketing, but everything on a very small scale. So for us to reach an audience like you do with 4 Coldplay shows here in Vienna will take a while, but we eventually get there with many different clients. So this is I wouldn't say the opposite model, but a very different one, obviously. And therefore also secondary ticketing for us is we have a very different perspective. But maybe I just start with an experience that we had. So when we touch upon that topic in our small company, it's hardly about the huge shows, as I said, but often we have, say, smaller independent festivals that are sold out very quickly. And more specifically, something like the sports events I refer to, for instance, where we actually have created a tool that's very similar to a ticket swap kind of idea, but comes more from the practical background. I want to participate in a race, but then I can't, so I pass on my ticket. But what you do and what you need is, okay, there is my shoe size and what jersey I'm wearing and what start block I'm in and things like these that you wouldn't usually stumble upon in a regular ticketing thing. So we needed to create an exchange tool that pretty much does the trick of swapping tickets, but it's a very, very different model. So how come it has become, for a company like yours, to start with you, how come it has become really a business model as its own?
Well, I think how the company was built like 11 years ago, it just came from a very personal experience, and I think a lot of people were in the past in that situation that you got scammed by someone else, especially since the digitalization races and eBay, Kleinanzeigen or Facebook is really big in that sense. It just became a problem, and I think our founders wanted to go to Lowlands Festival in the Netherlands, and yeah, we're at the entrance and wanted to go in, and the ticket was already scanned. So, and then you stand there, and what do you do? So yeah, I think solving the problem was the first intention to build the company and make a business model. And we also, yeah, to solve the problem, and we also make a bit money with it, which is also good.
Well, it's a business after all.
Exactly.
How would you see it from the primary standpoint? Is it a necessary evil that something like secondary ticketing even exists in the first place? And how do you treat it from your perspective if you start selling something where you expect secondary ticketing?
Well, I mean, first of all, we're not just like primary ticket. We, of course, we are primary ticketing, but on the other hand, we also do offer solutions for secondary ticketing, meanwhile. And I mean, I would like even zoom out a bit more. So because like this is not a phenomenon, or secondary ticketing is not a phenomenon of the last couple of years. So when like as long as there are events, there is like
what we call Schwarzmarkt.
What we used to call Schwarzmarkt. And I remember like when I was like 6, 7 years old, I was like a regular visitor of an ice hockey club of my hometown, and the very moment when we came into the playoffs, there were people standing in front of that stadium. That was like my first contact to people. Were like, oh, that's somehow it's so every week are the same persons who for some reason have a ticket left, obviously. So that was like the first moment when I realized that this seems to be a business out there. And I mean, this is like that has forever been there. I think like over the last couple of years, due to the digitalization of ticketing, there were just like on one hand, so there were issues coming up as like this whole business got fraudulent. So was about to say as like saying got fraudulent as fuck at some point, but we're not. This is streamed. We're not allowed to curse. On one hand, on the other hand, like due to the increasing ticket prices over the last like decade or even like 20 years, well, like ticket prices really went up a lot. This business got way more interesting for people who just like want to make business out of secondary ticketing. So this problem grew tremendously, and for us, like our idea is that from our perspective, it's important that people are able to get tickets for the events where they want to go to, where they want to attend, and this safe and secure, and without like having, because like what's really the biggest issue here is all these fraudulent stuff that's going on there. And then I remember shows like of back then when I wasn't even with Ticketmaster. I remember shows when we had I think it was World Club Dome or something, where we had a couple of thousand fraudulent tickets out there, worth hell lot of money as like those VIP packages that they sold on eBay Kleinanzeigen back then. Had a value per ticket of like 400 euros or something. And really, I mean it, thousands of tickets. We had the clearance and the troubleshooter. We needed to send home as this was a sold out show. And all these people had a like horrific experience, like traveling from all over Europe to this festival and didn't get entrance. Weren't able to enter the event. So this is where we really needed to find solutions, and where we and still need solutions out there, as there's still fraudulent activity. It just gets better over the last couple of years. This is like what we see, but it's not a necessary thing, or it's not I mean, there will always be a secondary market, but it's important that we offer the solutions that people can like find tickets on a safe harbor in a safe way, able to buy them without like being afraid of having paid a lot of money or spend a lot of money on a fake ticket.
All right, yeah. Let's dig a bit deeper into the problem. I mean, your sketch is very accurate and nice already. I remember a time when I started out in the music industry, working for a festival that was always sold out. But you know, back then, 90s, paper tickets, maybe with some security measures on the paper ticket. But back then, you used to work with maybe some sort of bracelets or maybe even stamps. And I remember how back in Wiesen, you might remember, Markus, people tried to copy the stamps to each other. So very creative times, say. How did we get from there to a point where we ask for personalized tickets, for blockchain tickets, for ultra security, and is this the definite measure to actually solve this problem? Let's wrap our head a bit around that. So again, maybe an experience or an anecdote rather from our world. Again, we obviously have different tasks even, and obviously problems. But what we have seen happening is really fraudulent tickets on a very low end and scale. We serve cinemas here in Vienna, so quite many of the boutique program cinemas, and people keep walking up with fake QR codes that are literally just any, because many of the cinemas don't really scan, they just look, okay, it's a ticket, you have this and that seat. And obviously many cinemas are not always sold out, so it's the opposite problem actually. So many tickets are on the market, and basically you only caught if the ticket already or the seat is already taken. So I suspect, I mean, in the meantime, we kind of told the cinemas, look, it might be wise to really scan the tickets. And of course, it's not just a security thing, it's rather how much stuff do you have, the quickness of the entrance and all that. So it's a completely different angle, but I mean, these tickets are like 8-9 euros. We're not talking about the 300-400 euro tickets of Taylor Swift. Is that something psychological, societal? Do you see a grander problem behind all that, or is it really just I want to be there, I don't have enough money, kind of the cheap thrill?
No. This is like, Christoph, you
No,
wanna?
I wanted to pass it to you because you work very closely, like with festival organizers together. Like with, I don't think, from the experiences there, I don't have that many people trying to get in with like a fake ticket and creating it and trying to get in. They are rather creating those fake tickets and sell it.
First of all, let me say that I'm shocked that you had these that you try to copy stamps back then. We had that friend back then when we tried to get in clubs. That was that was less a thing of the money we had to pay, but more an issue of that our ID was not showing the age that was necessary to get in the club. We had that one guy that was really good at drawing and had always like a couple of pens in the same colors that the stamp had. But now
Abdrücken, called it.
But I mean like cinemas and like this, like, let's call these low price tickets is also like, of course, like this is also an issue out there. But there's a difference in that there's only like I mean, the organizer or the film company or whatever, though. So they are the people who have like the damage in there. In the fraudulent activities that we saw over the last 10 years and like really tremendously grow in the last 10 years, there are two big losers in the show, and this is like one, the organizer or the promoter on one hand, like actively losing money, and on the other hand, like the ticket buyer, as he like bought fraud tickets a lot of times, and like but made this or but like the way to this, it was that people who always used the tickets as a to monetize and tickets on the secondary market to monetize their own business, that they also found out that the internet is a huge multiplicator for like for actually their distribution tool. Tools like eBay Kleinanzeigen, excellent tools to distribute to a hell lot of people.
You can scale basically,
Yeah,
and in a bad way, because you can
And
issue one ticket and bring it to 100 people. 100 people will buy it, but not one person gets in. It's really insane.
and that's not a thing of like these are not like 13-year-old kids who want to see a show what they can afford. So this is like these are professional fraudulent activities.
So this is where you come in, basically, as a
We
service.
try. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think what's really important to say, and I think you also touch base on it, I mean, it's like a huge market, a huge mafia market, let's say, and it is a problem. So you can't really, how do you say, forbid the problem. Like, it's not possible. So you have to find ways to regulate it, to make it mostly transparent, and you have different ways to do it. I think for us it is really important, and it's also a difficult balance sometimes between a B2B and a B2C approach, because the company was founded from a user point of view, but we also need the promoters, the organizers, and also the primary ticketing companies on board in order to communicate. Once you communicate, everything gets better. It's in life the same. Communication is key. So the more information we get from the organizer and from the ticketing companies, the safer we can make the product. So I think that's a very important thing to say, that without, it's like a triangle, let's say, to make it as safe as possible.
I mean, that's really, I mean, this is like what we currently have, well, will like keep us busy next couple of years to get back the trust of the people out there, which they lost, as everyone has now. Like nowadays, everyone had heard about a story where someone got ripped off on the secondary market, which is in the end like to the disadvantage of those people who like really have maybe a ticket left that they want to just sell, totally maybe for the same price that they bought it for, maybe for less, maybe whatever. So, but all those people are like, it isn't even possible to sell to sell tickets on different platforms anymore, as they had seen so many fraudulent activities out there, like eBay Kleinanzeigen. It's Kleinanzeigen nowadays, right? It's not eBay anymore. I'm not the biggest eBay user. But at Kleinanzeigen, it's, for example, they're really filtering out a lot of activity, which is on one hand, which is a good thing. On the other hand, of course, it's like annoying for those people who have bought a ticket from a provider that doesn't offer a secondary solution as we do, or works together with the third party to do that. So because like people are just like lost the trust in the market.
I was going to say, so the key currency in our market obviously is trust in the first place. And let me be the devil's advocate for a second here. So how much did you contribute? I'm looking at you specifically, not as a person, but you know, how much did the big companies actually actively contribute to that? Since they are responsible for increasing the prices, doing things like dynamic pricing, offering those grand sales through Viagogo and the likes in the first place, selling bunch of tickets to secondary ticketers in the first place to increase the prices and stuff like that. All these things happened, and they were basically coming either from the ticketing companies, from the big ones, or from the big promoters. so not from the fans. So how much did they actually help creating that problem in the first place of losing trust?
Well, that's not a single sentence answer, of course. So, and I mean, I work in the entertainment industry. The part with the industry says pretty much what it is about. We are a public company, and in the end, of course, we are not an NGO. To state this here for pretty
We
clear
are
so-
almost.
and I mean, no.
By mistake, but yes.
No one about this here, up here. And it's, I mean, it's cutting a bit too short things when you say it's like it's us who drove the ticket prices. In the end, it's like the people were able to, or like were willing to pay more for experiences than they were in the past. On one hand, on the other hand, if you look at our like financial numbers, for example, you see pretty much. I mean, I'm not allowed to give out like dedicated numbers on here, but we are a public company. You can look up our numbers and see our take rate, what we really earn on a ticket.
Yeah.
And then there is this dirty little secret that also we not like talk too much about, is there's some percentage left when we get our share of the ticket, pretty big part. Guess who is getting that? Right, so it's in the end, it's also the artist and the management.
It's a
and
very
so on.
greedy business. So
So-
all parts of it, of course. But
Is it
but
greedy,
someone's-
or is it just like every business which is big enough, and just like when people are willing to pay more for experiences, when really people are willing to pay more for other things, then the prices will go up.
Of course, but I mean, I have to switch my role from moderator
Fair enough.
To person. So my core company has been running a live business for more than 20 years, and we stopped doing that 2 years ago. And what bothered me most in all these years is how sometimes we are treated as business partners. If, for instance, an international band comes over, kickback payments and so forth. And also, in general, the foundation of our ticketing company back in 2010, 2011 was the greediness of the business. So to do something on the opposite and to be as fair and as transparent as possible to everyone, right, because this is how I want to do business. And I don't want to blame you or your company, but still, of course it's about making money. And I remember quite clearly a boss of a company, a big company called Live Nation, once said, well, if people are willing to pay the price, there's a market for that and we can charge it. And of course this is always an argument, but I strongly disagree. This is what made me furious about, for instance, the Taylor Swift incident in the US. Of course you can or could do that, but what you do culturally and socially and for the society is a disaster. You basically cut out a lot of people, and basically, especially with an audience that Taylor Swift has, a young audience that cannot afford it or is doing whatsoever to get there, just to be there, and paying a price they can actually not afford. So what you do on a society level is a sort of responsibility that, in my opinion, goes way beyond I'm a profit company. You know, and this is a responsibility that we as a live industry, I believe, strongly have also as ticketeers, even though we are just a small part of the chain here. But this is sort of a social responsibility on a wider scale that's got nothing to do with profits for a company or not, because in the long term, you destroy your own economy with that behavior. The same goes with, say, the oil industry and climate change. Of course, you make profits with that. Of course, oil is cheap, but is it responsible in the long run to do that? You know, it's a stretch, I know, but
pretty hard stretch.
This I know. But this is really what makes me angry and furious. If someone charges 450 euros for a ticket of whoever, just because he can, it's not okay.
Okay,
whether it's Taylor Swift or someone else or Ticketmaster
but
or any other company.
Who would you say is the one who is like in the end deciding what a Taylor Swift ticket will cost on the market?
In that case, I was shitstormed for saying Taylor Swift. So I say
Well,
Taylor
you were
Swift
right.
to get another shitstorm.
You were right.
Of course, I know.
And
But
there's
especially
one
Taylor
person,
Swift
there's one
fans don't
person
wanna
who
hear that.
really cut it out, the fans of the Taylor Swift show, and this is also Taylor Swift. the demand for Taylor Swift that we like measured before we went on sale was tremendously higher than the tickets that were offered.
Yeah.
So I mean, she was offering 2 million tickets for the US tour, and our demand was like multiply by that. And there's no way, and I mean, if you have on sales like that, and if you're like talking about that particular like super high demand shows, which is like a tiny little part of the business we're in, then there is no way that you are able to offer like that. If Taylor Swift wanted to offer everyone who wants the ticket, like despite the price, just like from the ability to buy one, she would be from like she would have been on tour for the next 15 years non-stop.
Lucky her.
Impossible. Totally impossible. Yeah, but for
I
some
ge- I
reason,
get it.
for some
I
reason,
get it,
we
but
would
still.
be happy, but for some reason, she didn't want that. So it's a bit like we
I
would
can
just
force Taylor Swift to do something else, and of course your argument is true at the end of the day. She can, and she does it because she can.
And you can also say like that it's absolutely up to her to say like I wanna see my ticket prices in XY range, like huge major artists, and this is like the German examples are the Toten Hosen or the Ärzte, who like since years really like make sure that their ticket prices are in a range where they want to see them.
I mean, in the end, supply and demand equals the price. And I think that's also coming back to the secondary. It's also like an unregulated secondary market. It's like you have, I don't know, 500 tickets, but 10,000 people want to attend. So you find tickets for it at eBay Kleinanzeigen, let's say again.
That's the rule of the evil, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it's important you have a price cap. And a ticket swap, for instance, you have like markets like France or Ireland, where it's by law that you can't go higher in the secondary market by 1%. So if a ticket in primary costs 50, on ticket swap it's also 50. In like, thank you. I can also use this one again. And in markets like Austria or Germany, there is no regulation for this. So also the government needs to step in and needs to shift the attention to it. Since you cannot rely on everything what they are doing, we're doing it ourselves, and then you have a price cap of 20%. So you can't sell tickets on ticket swap higher than 20% above face value.
So that's your business case.
That's
So you can trust us, but we charge up to 20% more than the original price.
I mean, you also give the buyer, the original buyer, an incentive to resell the ticket. You're not getting rich from it, and it's not a business. If you, I don't know, if I buy a ticket for 100 euros and I resell it for 120 euros, it's not a business. So it's more like an incentive and to keep it fair.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a fan of the French model in that case, or say there's at least a cap in a decent range.
Exactly.
5%, whatever, but that would that solve, or does it solve the problem? Do you have numbers or experience with French behavior in the ticket market? Is that any different?
I think it's mostly the same, but we're talking so much also about like the problem of like secondary, but it's also I think a bit like keeping or being flexible and like going with the mindset of fans. Like now, when I look at my mom, for instance, she bought like, I don't know, 30 years ago, a ticket for Black Sabbath for next year. And I think the only reason why she couldn't go is that when she got sick. But she has it in her agenda and she's going there 6 months from now on. Nowadays, I think the behavior of people buying tickets is way more flexible. And like this fear of missing out thing is also a topic. So you basically buy a ticket for 3 different festivals for next year, knowing if you can resell it safe and fairly, you're going to resell it and just attend one festival.
So that's sort of a secondary market that kind of...
Ideal world secondary market.
Yeah, but still, I mean, this is something that kind of developed. Like you say, especially with and through the pandemic, what we experienced, especially in the smaller clubs and smaller festivals that we serve, it completely derailed how we used to ticket events, you know, that especially that. So I have a show announced of a cool band that I like. It's in November, and I buy tickets in right now. And now it's like either a couple days before, or you have that hyper fear of missing out. Let's buy tickets now. That was the case with the Harry Styles tickets that I had. I almost forgot that I had them because who in the world would want to see Harry Styles? Obviously, I wanted to see Harry Styles, so I had tickets from a year ago. True. And the other behavior that you describe, of course, is obviously weaved into the newer generation. Let's be safe and also people have too much money, obviously, and keep it as sort of a investment for the future to maybe sell it and make money off it. Well, money, or get the money back at least.
It's so like always using, sorry, one sentence about this, always using the Spotify example. But
Yeah.
Spotify and the digitalization made it just possible that everyone is like basically interested in everything. You are not interested in your 3 bands anymore. People go to club shows where they play techno. People go to live concerts. People go to sport events.
I want to have all of it.
Yeah, they want to have it all. And I think organizers need to adapt to this new behavior.
I think like to state one thing, that the significant part of all resellers out there are private resellers who sell their tickets for maybe a bit more if it's a high demand or for the same price. This is like this is the majority of it. So even our most high demand shows of the last couple of years, you just named a couple of them, where you could have easily sold your ticket for 200% of the original ticket price, which would and we would still easily sell it to someone as the demand was so high. We saw with our resale solution, our internal integrated resale solution, we saw on overall, I think we never went over 20% uplift over the original price, even at those super high demand things. So
even without the artificial cap, so it would have been possible, but no one did it.
We decided, actually that's a big discussion we had in Germany, as we because we do have a cap, but it's not 20%. You could have sold it way higher. We didn't cap it as we in the when we will, and we're still a bit of in the let's say we're looking at the numbers still and see what we do, because when you're capping it too low, you will have all these people who buy a ticket and want to make a revenue of it. They will go back to Kleinanzeigen, and then you have all this fraudulent activity back again. And then we have all this clearance, then we have this 2,000 people standing in front of our clearance counter, who still make the bad experience for everyone but the seller or the reseller.
Do you not work at Ticketmaster also with this closed loop environment?
Yeah.
So this is basically a prevention for what you just said, right? You can't really access the ticket until 48 hours before the event or something?
This is something that we this is another thing we do a lot for the non-displayed barcodes, that they're not able to sell the ticket anymore. Also, we some of our bigger promoters are starting to put in the terms and conditions of their tickets, that it's not allowed to resell, and really trying to go after with legal action after professional resellers on platforms that are not authorized and so on. But these are the promoters, it's not us. We couldn't do, as we are just we're just a retailer of it.
We've also seen a lot of different solutions. So 2 things that come to mind. The one I want to get back to later on is how, for instance, UEFA is treating all this with a very, very different angle, and quite successfully so. And the other one are rather technical solutions, say. So what DICE is doing, what people from startups are doing with the QR codes are rotating.
Right.
You have your blockchain tickets and that type of stuff. So basically, we're trying to solve what I always call the airport problem. There are 1 million passengers just trying to fly, and there's one idiot, and because of that one idiot, 1 million people have to go through security and have all the checks and all that. So we have to find and take care of that one idiot. What can we do about it? And this is the tight security measures that we try to have with blockchain and the likes. Is that really the way to go?
I mean, the issue is that one idiot has, with the internet at his hands, is able to sell, as Christoph just stated, hundreds of tickets.
Yeah, this is thousands
of tickets. So then you still have one idiot, but thousands of tickets and fraudulent tickets out there. And of course, it needs some way, which is not just an economical thing you're looking at, as you're of course losing tremendously amounts of money if you via the black market and via fraudulent tickets, but also a security issue, because like imagine having those 2, 3, 4, 5,000 people with fraudulent tickets in the venue, exceeding the overall number of the overall capacity. Then you really come into like totally a different issue. So of course we need to find solutions to make sure that people are like that only people get access to events who have a ticket. So, and of course we also need to make sure that this is as convenient and like as possible. And of course like nobody wants to have like full ID checks at the entrance.
They don't work anyway.
I mean, it would, and there have been like big events out there where they check the ID. It's just like the ID at the entrance, which is, by the way, the only way to really avoid work with personalized tickets is to check the ID at the entrance. But yeah, it's way more costly. So as you need so much more like doors and staff at the entrance, and it's inconvenient.
It is. I mean, from personal experience, I was at Primavera this year, and you needed the Primavera app and the Dice app, and and Access Ticket, which is a Primavera app too. So you went through 2 or 3 different apps to actually get your ticket. You have to identify yourself, really.
At least we got rid of the COVID app.
I think it's on the in the aftermath of that. That's how it came into being. But when you enter the door at Primavera, they have a screen showing your picture from the ID, and they check whether it's you. And I shave every 2 weeks, so I look differently tomorrow probably, because I'm just a lazy guy. And they had an issue recognizing me because on the ID I was shaved, so they had to check like twice, and then I showed them my ID. It's me, and then they believed me and let me in. So all these checks, more stuff, more inconvenience, and all that again, like on the airport, with for just that one idiot. And the other thing I want to mention, the downside of super security, again, especially even with smaller events, even here actually. So something's not working at the entrance, and again, it's much more about trust. Something's not right with the app, I just walk in. Of course, you cannot do that in the stadium. And you probably will be more with
then
seats,
actually
right?
you can do, but then you will shift the issue you have at the entrance to the inner field when 2 people standing in front of the same seat.
But it probably happens at any or every event out there. Of course. Issues like these. So how do you actually treat your audience in that case? If something which might be a technical issue evolves, and how do you defer that from some real fraudulent tickets? So is it really the solution to actually solve the problem technically is my ultimate question actually.
I think there's no other way around. If like those who selling fraudulent tickets or like working with fraudulent tickets are using technology to do that, so able to, because like when we keep the picture you just draw, and then it's unfortunately it's not that one idiot. It's a one asshole bringing in not a hell lot of idiots, but a hell lot of people with like fraudulent tickets, and so then it's not a single issue anymore. We would say like, okay, got that one guy who faked that ticket, let them in and let everyone else alone. Yeah. We're talking about thousands of fake tickets at some point. The less we would do against it, the more it would get. It's a brilliant business, right? You don't do anything and just earn a hell lot of money. And they're like, this is like, to give you an idea how professional they work. I remember like when I started at the company I worked before, Ticketmaster, everyone from us needed to go to what we called an on-site visit, so to sit in a troubleshooter booth that they wanted all us of have like this experience, and that was
exactly the scenario I just.
There's a scenario of just like, and everyone who showed up, and everyone who like from these like thousands of people, we had like a couple of troubleshooters. They were not all with me, but a hell lot of them were with me, and they were all showing up, and they were all at some point saying, "So, but I got these. I even have a printed out ID of the seller, and I'm like, yeah, and I can tell you what name on it, the name on it, as it was a stolen ID card that was just like used to give the people the trust that they buy from a real person. So this is like this is not this one idiot. So this is this one
Of course, yeah,
asshole
it
with a
can-
hell
it
lot
can
of
become a
criminal
business.
energy, and so if we don't do, and I think to solve that issue, we need to go for technical solutions. Yeah.
All right. That might be a good time. Can I bring in you for a second? I'm looking at you. So since Georg is here, Georg is running a blockchain-based ticketing solution company.
Right.
So I'd like to hear your angle on that. So I tried to be the devil's advocate here in terms of, I don't think technical solutions are the ultimate goal. I mean, they can be, or they could be part of the solution, but are they the ultimate solution, and why? So what's different with that type of solution? So blockchain basically is the replacement for the trust we have as human beings on the technical side, to put it mildly. So you can really create unique tickets, but what is really the big advantage, and is it the technical solution at the end of the day?
I think we need to hand out a
Yeah.
microphone, right? Yeah.
Surprise guest.
Join us. Have a seat.
I didn't want to surprise you guys.
No worries.
So I think there are like
expertise. So
yeah, it's like multiple topics which are actually here discussed, and one thing which is important is well, the fake tickets. You cannot eliminate that because there will be black alley transactions, and nobody. If you don't know where to buy a ticket, you will always buy those fake tickets. But what you can avoid is basically having this central pool of tickets and also govern the secondary market of that. Even if it's only one issue like Ticketmaster, and everybody knows, okay, there is a liquid secondary market with no caps, because once you have the caps, like on the low level, you said it yourself, they will go to Viagogo. And of course, on your marketplace, there are honest people selling for low caps. All the others sell on Viagogo. So if you have numbers, what's the ratio between your secondary market and Viagogo, then I think it will show a different story.
Well, we do have numbers, and what we see is Viagogo, like numbers of Viagogo going down as people more and more, and it's just not just us. It's also like we have also our competitors out there offering integrated solutions that people more and more learn. At first, it's super convenient and it's easier for them, so they don't need to find another way. And then over that, so they learned that Viagogo is also like selling you tickets where you don't get access to the actual event afterwards. So that can happen to you anytime. And so this learning is more and more getting to the fans out there. And so this will be seen like really decreasing number of tickets on those what we call fraudulent secondary markets or secondary platforms.
Yeah, and now back to the technical question. Yes, blockchain is a solution for, at multiple points, it's not a solution for every single problem there, but it might be a solution for the big problems, despite these back alley transactions. And there are even more use cases in the whole ticketing life cycle. If you have, like in the O2 arena, where Ticketmaster is selling, AXS is selling, C-Tickets is selling at the same time, they need to exchange user data and stuff like that. So for those big use cases, the technical solution is, let's say, almost perfect. For the small concerts where you have turning QR codes, we are working with large ticketing companies and investigating all these attack vectors. The scalpers, they even found out what's the algorithm to change the QR code. So what you buy on Viagogo, it's actually not the ticket which is transferred to you.
the algorithm.
The algorithm, they send you a website which replicates the algorithm.
Yeah.
So we're trying to identify every single attack vector and see if our technology actually resolves that. And well, for this turning QR codes, there is no algorithm, because with cryptography, it's a signing process. And it's again this, for creating trust, you need kind of a triangle. And there, actually, technology helps. It helps to have like, you use it actually for identity as well. For the COVID certificates, you could even check this offline, but you check if it's signed with the right key. So their technology is a solution also for this issue.
Okay. Thanks. Yep, because das Doppler so that might be one angle, but I think really, again, we come always back to that one word, which is trust. So you and your company sort of you are an extra topping to all that. So you are an Excel company offering trust. You have an internal solution that offers or that tries to build the trust in the secondary market. We do pretty much the same. So we offer the promoter. Okay, are you willing to offer your clients, your ticket buyers, that they can swap their tickets for free, and we will take care of a secure transaction and all that. So along those lines, what else is there to actually build trust, and how can we regain the trust? Is it really necessary to force out the Viagogos of the world, and do we need like laws to do that, or is it really about sort of common sense, building common sense in the audience?
I think it's a mixture of everything you just said. I think it's the responsibility of the ticketing provider and also of the organizer to build a safe environment and to also educate the crowd where to buy safe and fair ticketing. Yeah, in the end, in Germany, I have to say it's still a shady business with secondary, and we are just trying to bring some light in the tunnel. But yeah, I think it's really simply answered. As long as people are at the entrance not getting in for whatever reason, it's a problem, and there is mistrust. But things like communicating with the primary ticketer, communicating to your fans this topic and saying, hey, the event is sold out. If you can't go, there is one place or two places where you should do it. Please avoid this, and this website. Education.
I think it's one fact, just it's for you anyway. Yeah. So one factor is price, again, and the price sensitivity of people. And I think what's diffusing the problem a bit is, for instance, the bigger the shows are, the more categories they are. You know, if you go to a club show, the tickets are 20 euros, fine, thanks, that's it. But, so therefore, you know, okay, if they charge 35, something's odd. But that's impossible to see with the stadium concerts where you have like 25 different price categories in the first place. So is that a factor too?
No, I don't think so. So because like the in the end, it's quite easy. Whenever a show is sold out and the demand is still there, people will buy a ticket for it or wanna buy a ticket for it. And no matter if this is a club show of 600 people and or which is sold out, or a stadium show of I don't know, 80,000 people with different ticket categories, the mechanic behind is always the same. It's sold out. I still want to go. I need a ticket, so I'm gonna try to find some. And I would like on the more fraudulent the market out there is, the more people would educate themselves, right? So this is just a matter of like, I mean, this is our job of all of us. Promoter, artist, as he's the biggest communicator and had the biggest reach from all of us. But on the other hand, even like time is on our side. Like people will find out that it's dangerous to buy tickets on platforms that are not certified to sell them, just by buying fraudulent tickets.
Finding it out, right? They
Finding
try
it
it
out,
once,
right.
and they won't go back.
And that's terrible, but this is like, yeah, this is like how it's gonna work.
That brings me back to the moral question I raised earlier, because you know, like if I again compare it to climate change, I mean we are about to find out the hard way what it means, but it might hurt, you know. Anyways, I was gonna talk about UEFA because I actually find their approach rather clever and fair. and I experienced that at different, especially sports events in the past too, basically doing the lottery. So there of course there's a much bigger hunt, I would even say, for tickets than for a usual sports event. So of course prices could go up, but I mean, the tickets are not cheap, but they at least have a decent cap, let's say it that way. And if you then have 50,000 tickets available and there are 200,000 people in line for those tickets, 1 out of 4 will win, the others won't. Why is that not an option, do you think, for music shows, for instance?
That definitely is an option. Then we're back at the topic of that these tickets need to be personalized, and then we're back at some point that we somehow need to find a solution how to check IDs or like the identity of the people of the ticket owner at the door. And of course, they're also like I mean, there are solutions to this that people are looking into, and that's not my that's not my actually that's not what my company does, but there were Taylor Swift was one example I remember a couple of years ago when she were looking into putting biometrical data behind a ticket in order to get entrances, so she used it for a different use case, but the idea behind was that people could just like get in and have their biometrical data checked in order to certify that that's their ticket at the entrance pretty fast. But I'm pretty sure
it's a bit ridiculous, is it?
It is ridiculous, and I'm pretty sure that is not the way we will go in the next couple of years. But I'm personally convinced this is the way we will go in the next like decades. As like I remember short story here, been to the Amazon Partner Day in the first month of this year, and there were like and they had a showcase of their what they called Amazon POS solution, or what it is like. These are fully automated supermarkets where you just like whenever you pick something from the shelves, it gets registered automatically and you just walk out and in. And this was that was working by either checking in via app or via what was the other one?
Your eyes.
No, not the eyes. It was a hand scan actually, and that was crazy. So, and we were able to like, and this is what they do actually when they have these partner days. They build up a full supermarket, which are super cool, but on the other hand, like a bit crazy.
It would be technically possible in the reality we live. If you look, especially say China and the apps that they have there, to combine it with Face ID already. So you don't even have a ticket; you just walk in.
Right,
and
exactly.
if you don't have a ticket,
of
or
course.
if they don't know your face, if you're not shaved,
And that's how this POS solution of Amazon worked. You just scanned your hand, you can pick everything that you want, and you walked out. That's it. End of story. And I mean, of course, there will be, and this is like my personal. I'm personally convinced that we will go down that route. Either we are, of course, especially in Europe, or especially in Europe, are super. Well, let's say we're not too much into giving away our biometrical data to anyone for a good reason.
If it's for a funny face app, we do.
for a good reason, of course. But on the other hand, like there are a lot of like big markets where they don't have an issue with that, and I'm personally convinced that this is like some route that we will like look into over the next couple of decades.
If you look at what happened in the past 2 decades and how we behave digitally and what we are willing to sign off in terms and conditions, not knowing what we actually signed on to, if you think what Facebook is allowed to do with the data you've created over the past 20 years, now that you're not interested in Facebook anymore, they don't care. They own of data, and they can do whatever they like with it. And the same goes for pretty much any service, and don't get me started on TikTok and the likes. And Apple with biometrics and all that. So GDPR and anything that comes along the lines of data protection is certainly an issue. But that brings me back to what you just said with and what happened at times during COVID, that you use data without seeing the data. That's technically possible and feasible. So why aren't we moving more in that direction anyway?
I think we are, and this Amazon One, I think, is the hand scanner. That's called Amazon One. It's actually in that direction. They only, once you register for that service, they will just give the proof that you are a registered person if you don't demand for that information. The same actually.
Doesn't have data, but they check with the service that has.
Yes, because, and that brings me to your question, it's a matter of standards, because if Amazon One provides this information, they have an algorithm how to identify you based on your palm. If they don't share this algorithm, nobody else can do that except Amazon, and most probably they will not do. But it's always a matter of standardization, and that's the issue with identity, because you have now the W3C standards, I think in Switzerland. Google is working on a different standard, and there are like five to six, 7 different standards or associations trying to establish a standard. Unless they agree on one, it's still like years ahead. But once we agree on a standard, all of this will be possible.
The future is so bright, we gotta wear shades. All
got a
right,
question over
so I'd like to open up for questions, and there is one already. Would you mind coming up, stepping up, and speak to the microphone since we're streaming? All right, then scream loud.
I think we're going to talk in a minute. You messaged me. Yeah. I work in the other side of the industry from you guys. So I work in delivery for festival sites of ticketing on site, as in entry and exit and things like this. I can tell you Primavera's model will be standard in 3 years at most festivals. Facial recognition probably in 5. I can tell you that Amazon tried to roll out bars at festivals this year with that same technology, and that was almost done in 3 or 4 markets as well. So I think...
Is that utopia or dystopia then?
Yeah, then the question is really, so the argument of staffing is actually a massive reduction in staffing once you roll out the Primavera kind of systems, because you're taking away ticket scanning and replacing it with security that's already there. So you're losing 50% of your staff on the gates just by rolling that out in the first place. The secondary is facial recognition is already in use in certain markets for security anyway. So just adapting that to ticketing requires a tick box system when you buy the ticket to say you approve your biometrics being included. Whether or not this will change the secondary market is another question altogether, but I think the reality is we're probably 5 years away from walking in to a festival. Like if you go to the O2 in London now, your security is just a box that you walk through. There is no security pat down, no checks, because they do these full body x-ray scans.
So you had a ticket already?
Not the ticket. This is just a security check. Okay. You still have a ticketing check. But the reality is that piece of equipment will very quickly be adapted to do facial recognition as well, or biometrics of some kind, so you don't even have to present a ticket walking into an event. I think we're probably not a long way off from that.
But that would like change the secondary market tremendously, as like this very moment when you have these entrance solutions and like this like big problem of checking the ID against the ticket at the entrance solved, then all the high demand shows can be worked with personalized tickets, and you already like, and then you can like easily reduce the secondary market to those platforms where you like give the, or like where you allow to trade in tickets, because this is like the only place then where you can reassign tickets on a different on a new name. So that would tremendously change everything.
And we haven't even touched the brain implant chips that we're gonna have in 10 years time when we meet again for the next ticketing panel. Then we're gonna
maybe
speak what was
when
the
you
ticketing of the past.
when you're sitting together and Marcus in 10 years on this panel, we'll see if you like.
See you in 10 years.
All right, that's a great wrap then. Thanks for that great discussion. Thanks to you for listening. I hope you have a great festival tonight and tomorrow and Saturday. Thanks, so long, see ya.